Imagine waking up in a small English village during the Victorian era. The year is 1850. The sun has barely risen above the rolling fields, yet much of the village is already awake. There are no alarm clocks buzzing on bedside tables, no electric lights, and certainly no smartphones. Instead, the day begins with the sound of roosters crowing, church bells ringing in the distance, and farmers stepping into muddy lanes before dawn. For most villagers, life follows a rhythm that has remained unchanged for generations. The village itself is small, perhaps home to a few hundred people. Narrow dirt roads connect cottages built from stone or brick. Smoke rises from chimneys as families prepare breakfast over open fires. The smell of burning coal and damp earth fills the cool morning air. Inside many homes, entire families share only a few rooms. Privacy is rare. Children often sleep several to a bed while parents work tirelessly to keep food on the table. For the average villager, work begins early and ends late. Men labor in the fields, tending crops or caring for livestock. Others work as blacksmiths, carpenters, or laborers on nearby estates. Women manage households, bake bread, mend clothing, fetch water, and care for children. Their work is constant and physically demanding, yet it is often overlooked in historical accounts. Children are expected to contribute as soon as they are able. Even before reaching their teenage years, many help with farming, gathering firewood, or running errands. School exists, but attendance is often irregular, especially during planting and harvest seasons when every pair of hands is needed. At the center of village life stands the church. It is more than a place of worship. It serves as a social hub, a source of news, and a symbol of order. Most villagers attend services regularly, and the church calendar shapes the year through holidays, festivals, weddings, and funerals. Yet beneath the peaceful image often associated with Victorian villages lies a harsher reality. Poverty is common. Medical care is limited. A simple infection can become deadly. Harsh winters threaten food supplies, and poor harvests can push families to the edge of survival. Every day is a balance between hope and hardship. Still, despite the challenges, strong bonds unite the community. Neighbors know one another intimately. Families often remain in the same village for generations. In a world without modern conveniences, survival depends on cooperation, tradition, and resilience. This is the forgotten world of the Victorian village, where ordinary people lived extraordinary lives, and where every sunrise marked the beginning of another struggle to endure. As the morning sun climbs higher above the village, the pace of life quickens. By 7 o'clock, most adults have already been working for hours. Farmers guide horses through fields, turning the soil for future harvests. The sound of metal striking metal echoes from the blacksmith's workshop, where tools, horseshoes, and wagon parts are crafted by hand. Every profession plays a role in keeping the village alive, and every villager depends on the labor of others. Food is a constant concern. Unlike modern supermarkets filled with products from around the world, Victorian villagers rely largely on what can be grown locally. Bread forms the foundation of many meals. Potatoes, vegetables, eggs, and occasional meat appear on family tables when circumstances allow. Wealthier families may enjoy beef, pork, or fresh dairy products more regularly, while poorer households often survive on simpler fare. Fetching water is a daily task that consumes valuable time. Without indoor plumbing, women and children frequently walk to village pumps, wells, or nearby streams carrying heavy buckets. The water must be used carefully for cooking, washing, and cleaning. During dry summers or severe winters, obtaining enough clean water can become a serious challenge. Laundry is another exhausting responsibility. Clothes are washed by hand using soap, hot water, and relentless scrubbing. The process can take an entire day. Since most families own only a limited number of garments, keeping clothing clean is essential. A torn shirt or damaged dress is repaired repeatedly rather than replaced. For many villagers, the local shop is one of the few places where money changes hands. Small stores sell necessities such as flour, candles, tea, sugar, and fabric. However, cash is often scarce. Some families purchase goods on credit, hoping that future harvests or wages will allow them to settle their debts. Animals are everywhere. Chickens wander through yards. Dogs guard homes and livestock. Horses provide transportation and power for farming. Cows supply milk, while pigs are raised for food. These animals are not pets in the modern sense. They are valuable assets that contribute directly to a family's survival. By midday, the village is alive with activity. Smoke drifts above rooftops. Carts travel along muddy roads, and workers pause briefly for a simple meal before returning to their duties. There is little time for rest. Every season brings its own demands, and every day is shaped by the need to earn a living. To an outsider, the village may appear peaceful and picturesque, yet behind every cottage, door are people working tirelessly to secure the basics of life. Their world is one of hard work, practical skills, and constant determination. In Victorian England, survival is not guaranteed. It is earned one day at a time. As afternoon settles over the village, attention turns toward one of the most important parts of Victorian life, education. For centuries, many rural children received little formal schooling. By the middle of the 19th century, this was slowly beginning to change. Small village schools appeared across the countryside, often supported by churches or local benefactors. Yet education remained a privilege that many families could not fully afford. The schoolhouse is usually a modest building with a single classroom. Inside, dozens of children of different ages sit together on wooden benches. The room is often cold during winter and uncomfortably warm during summer. Lessons focus on reading, writing, arithmetic, and religious instruction. Discipline is strict. Teachers are respected authority figures, and misbehavior can result in punishment that would seem harsh by modern standards. For many children, however, attending school is not their primary responsibility. During planting season, harvest time, or periods of financial hardship, parents often keep their sons and daughters at home to help with work. A strong child can contribute valuable labor in the fields, while younger children assist with household tasks. Survival frequently takes priority over education. Books are precious possessions. Many families own none at all. A single textbook may be shared among several students, and children practice writing on slates that can be erased and reused. Despite these limitations, education represents hope. Parents dream that literacy and knowledge might open opportunities unavailable to previous generations. Outside the classroom, children create their own entertainment. There are no televisions, video games, or movie theaters. Instead, boys and girls invent games in fields and village lanes. They race, climb trees, play with handmade toys, and explore the countryside. Imagination fills the gap left by the absence of modern technology. Village gossip travels quickly through these young messengers. Children carry news from one household to another, often learning the latest stories before adults do. They know who is getting married, whose crops are failing, and which family may soon welcome a new child. In a close-knit community, information spreads rapidly. Not every childhood is carefree. Many Victorian children face responsibilities that would seem overwhelming today. Some begin working for wages while still very young. Others spend long hours caring for siblings while parents labor from dawn until dusk. Childhood and adulthood are often separated by only a few short years. As the school bell signals the end of lessons, children stream out into the village streets. Some hurry home to chores waiting for them. Others seize a few precious moments of freedom before evening arrives. Their laughter echoes through the lanes, offering a brief reminder that even in a world shaped by hardship, joy can still be found in the simplest moments. As the afternoon fades into evening, the village enters one of the most significant moments of the day. The hardest labor begins to slow, but many responsibilities still remain. Across the countryside, long shadows stretch over fields and winding lanes while farmers rush to finish their final tasks. Before darkness arrives, in Victorian England, daylight governs nearly every aspect of daily life. Without electric lights to brighten roads, barns, or workshops, each remaining minute of sunshine is precious. Once the sun disappears below the horizon, much of the village is swallowed by darkness, making ordinary activities far more difficult. In the fields, workers collect tools that have been in use since dawn and store them carefully for the night. Horses are led back to stables where they can recover after hours of pulling. Carts and plows. Livestock demand attention before evening settles completely. Cows are milked, sheep counted, chickens secured, and animals fed. For families living on limited means, every animal is valuable. A single loss could mean reduced income or less food for the household, making these evening routines essential for survival. Inside the cottages, preparations for supper are underway. Fires that have burned throughout the day are replenished with wood or coal. The kitchen becomes the center of family life as iron pots simmer above open flames. The scent of vegetable stew, fresh bread, and occasionally roasted meat drifts through the small rooms. Although meals are often modest, They provide comfort and nourishment after long hours of work. For many villagers, supper is the only time when the entire family can gather together. Fathers return from the fields exhausted and covered in dirt. Mothers complete their final household duties before joining the meal. Children eagerly share stories about lessons, errands, or tasks they completed during the day. These conversations strengthen family ties and offer a brief escape from the relentless demands of Victorian life. After eating, families often gather around the hearth. The flickering fire casts shifting shadows across walls and ceilings, creating a sense of warmth despite the darkness outside. Candles are costly and used sparingly, so the fireplace serves as the main source of light in many homes. Reading remains limited to those who own books and have learned to read, a privilege still unavailable to many people during this era. Evening entertainment differs greatly from modern forms of leisure. Stories passed down through generations are shared beside the fire. Grandparents recount local legends, strange events, and memories from earlier years. Folk songs are sung together, and in some households, simple instruments accompany familiar tunes. These traditions preserve community history while providing enjoyment that requires neither money nor special equipment. The village inn grows busier as the evening progresses. Men gather to exchange news, discuss harvests, and debate local matters. Travelers occasionally arrive carrying information from neighboring towns or distant cities. In a world without radio, television, or the internet, conversation remains one of the most important ways to learn about events. Beyond the village, nightfall also brings new dangers. Medical emergencies become more serious after dark when assistance is difficult to obtain. Traveling along country roads carries risks. Because of poor visibility and unpredictable weather, even familiar paths can become hazardous, encouraging most villagers to remain close to home once darkness fully settles. As stars appear above the countryside, a calm stillness spreads across the village. The sounds of labor gradually fade away. Doors are closed, fires burn lower, and families prepare for sleep. In Victorian England, rest is not merely a comfort, but a necessity. With another demanding day waiting ahead, villagers retire early, knowing that the cycle of work, responsibility, and survival will begin again with the first light of dawn. As a new day begins to brighten the village, it becomes clear that not every family wakes with the same sense of comfort and security. Behind the picturesque cottages, green meadows, and quiet country lanes lies a constant struggle against one of the greatest threats of Victorian life, disease. In an era before antibiotics, modern hospitals, and a full understanding of many illnesses, even a minor sickness could quickly become a matter of life and death when someone in the village falls ill. Treatment almost always takes place at home. Family members become caregivers, nurses, and the patient's only source of daily support. Nearly every household keeps a collection of herbs, tinctures, and homemade remedies, with recipes passed down through generations. People prepare teas, poultices, and medicinal mixtures in the hope of easing pain or reducing fever. Some remedies provide genuine relief, but many prove powerless against serious diseases. Doctors do exist, yet their services are expensive and beyond the reach of many villagers. For poor families, calling a physician often means spending a large portion of their savings, so professional medical help is sought only in the most severe situations. Even when a doctor arrives, his knowledge is limited by the medical understanding of the time. Many illnesses that are easily treated today remain mysterious and poorly understood by Victorian practitioners. Infectious diseases spread through the village with alarming speed. Homes are often crowded, sanitation is far from ideal, and access to clean water cannot always be guaranteed. A single outbreak can affect dozens of households. Measles, scarlet fever, tuberculosis, and cholera inspire genuine fear throughout the community. Parents constantly worry that a child's ordinary fever may be the first sign of a deadly illness. Particularly heartbreaking is the high rate of child mortality. Many children never reach adulthood, and almost every family experiences the pain of loss. Funerals become a familiar part of life, while the death of a relative, neighbor, or friend is an experience shared by most villagers. During such difficult times, the local church plays an important role. Clergymen visit the sick, pray with families, and offer comfort to those who are grieving. Faith provides reassurance when medicine can do little more. Disease is not the only danger. Rural work is physically demanding and often hazardous. A kick from a horse, a fall from a wagon, or an injury caused by farming tools can permanently alter a person's life. Without modern emergency care, even relatively minor wounds may lead to disability, infection, or death.
Despite these hardships, village residents display remarkable resilience. Neighbors help one another, bringing food to affected families, caring for children, and supporting those facing difficult circumstances. When misfortune strikes, the community comes together, knowing that survival depends not only on individual strength, but also on mutual assistance. Yet every unexpected toll of the church bell brings anxiety, and every late knock at the door makes hearts beat a little faster. In Victorian England, health remains fragile, and life can change dramatically within only a few days. That is why people cherish moments of happiness so deeply, fully aware of how quickly they can disappear.
Despite the many hardships of Victorian village life, the year is not defined entirely by work, illness, and survival. Alongside the endless responsibilities of farming, household duties, and seasonal labor, villagers look forward to special occasions that bring excitement and relief from routine. These celebrations are far more than simple entertainment. They provide valuable opportunities for people to gather, strengthen friendships, and enjoy moments of instinctive existence. Happiness that help balance the difficulties of everyday existence. The arrival of spring is welcomed with great enthusiasm throughout the countryside. After months of cold weather, muddy roads, and short daylight hours, signs of new life begin to appear everywhere. Trees blossom, birds return to the fields, and fresh green shoots emerge across the landscape. Farmers prepare their land for planting while families spend more time outdoors enjoying the improving weather. Children who have spent much of the winter indoors eagerly return to playing in village lanes, fields, and meadows. Village fairs rank among the most anticipated events of the year. People travel from neighboring communities to attend, transforming quiet villages into lively centers of activity. Temporary stalls line the roads and market squares, offering food, clothing, tools, household goods, and handmade crafts. Farmers proudly display their strongest livestock, while local craftsmen showcase products they hope to sell. For many villagers, these fairs provide rare opportunities to meet strangers, exchange news, and experience something beyond the boundaries of their daily lives. Music and dancing are often central features of these celebrations. Local musicians perform using fiddles, flutes, accordions, and other instruments, creating an atmosphere of excitement and festivity. Villagers gather in open spaces to dance together, laugh, and enjoy the occasion. Young men and women especially value these events because they offer opportunities to socialize and form relationships. In small communities where social circles are limited, fairs and festivals often play an important role in courtship and future marriages. Religious celebrations also shape the rhythm of village life. Christmas is among the most beloved occasions of the year. Homes are decorated with holly, ivy, and other greenery collected from nearby woods. Families prepare special meals whenever circumstances allow, and churches fill with worshippers attending seasonal services. During the Victorian era, many Christmas traditions become increasingly popular, helping establish the holiday as a time associated with family gatherings, generosity, and shared celebration. Harvest festivals carry deep importance as well. After months of demanding labor, villagers come together to give thanks for the crops that will sustain them through winter. A successful harvest brings relief, confidence, and hope for the months ahead. When harvests are poor, however, anxiety spreads throughout the community, reminding everyone how dependent their survival remains on weather and natural conditions. Weddings generate excitement across the village. News of an engagement spreads quickly, and preparations often involve relatives, friends, and neighbors. Wedding ceremonies become major social occasions that bring people together in celebration. In a world where hardship and loss are common experiences, marriages provide welcome reasons for joy and optimism. Even modest gatherings contribute to village happiness. Neighbors visit one another during evenings, sharing stories, meals, and companionship beside the fire. Though simple, these moments strengthen community, bonds, and provide comfort during village life. Uncertain times. As the seasons pass, such celebrations become treasured memories. They remind villagers that life consists of more than work and struggle. In a world filled with challenges, moments of joy are deeply valued, carefully remembered, and eagerly anticipated, giving people renewed strength to face whatever difficulties the future may hold.
As summer reaches its height, the village enters one of the busiest and most demanding periods of the year. Every field, pasture, and garden becomes a place of constant activity. The success or failure of the coming harvest depends upon the work completed during these crucial months. For Victorian villagers, nature is not merely a backdrop to daily life. It is the force that determines prosperity, hardship, and survival. Before sunrise, farmers are already at work. The cool morning hours are valuable because the afternoon heat can be exhausting. Men guide horses through the fields while women and older children assist with planting, weeding, and tending crops. Every member of the household contributes, even the youngest. Children are often given simple tasks that help the family manage the enormous workload. The countryside appears beautiful during summer, but life beneath that beauty is far from easy. Long days of physical labor place tremendous strain on the body. Hands become rough and calloused. Backs ache from endless bending and lifting. Yet few villagers complain. Hard work is accepted as a normal part of life, and most people have known no other way of living. Weather is a constant source of concern. Farmers watch the sky with careful attention. A period of drought can damage crops and reduce harvest yields. Too much rain can flood fields and destroy months of effort. A violent storm arriving at the wrong moment may ruin an entire season's work. Unlike modern farmers with advanced technology and forecasting tools, Victorian villagers have little control over these forces. The village economy depends heavily on agriculture. Good harvests bring food, income, and security. Poor harvests can create financial difficulties that last for months or even years. Because of this uncertainty, villagers develop a deep respect for the natural world. Their livelihoods are directly tied to the changing seasons. Summer also brings opportunities for gathering wild foods. Children search for berries along hedgerows while families collect herbs, mushrooms, and other useful plants. These resources supplement household supplies and help prepare for the colder months ahead. Knowledge of local plants is passed from one generation to another and remains an important survival skill. As evening arrives after another long day, golden sunlight spreads across the fields. Workers slowly return home carrying tools and supplies. Although exhausted, many feel a sense of pride as they look across the land they have cultivated with their own hands. Each row of growing crops represents hope for the future. Yet everyone understands that the hardest challenge still lies ahead. Harvest season is approaching. The success of an entire year will soon be measured by what can be gathered from the fields. For now, the village continues its work, knowing that every day of summer matters and that nature ultimately holds the final verdict on their efforts. As autumn approaches, a sense of urgency spreads throughout the Victorian village. The long months of preparation are coming to an end, and now everything depends upon the harvest. For farming families, this is the most important period of the entire year. The crops that have been planted, protected, and nurtured through spring and summer must now be gathered before cold weather arrives. Every available hand is needed. Men, women, and children work side by side from dawn until dusk. The fields become scenes of constant activity as wagons move back and forth, carrying grain, vegetables, and other precious crops. There is little time for rest. Villagers understand that every hour matters. A sudden storm, heavy rain, or early frost could destroy weeks of hard work and threaten the food supply for the coming winter. Across the countryside, the sound of scythes cutting wheat fills the air. Workers move steadily through golden fields, harvesting crops that represent the difference between comfort and hardship. Children who normally attend school spend their days helping their families gather produce. Education temporarily gives way to necessity. Survival remains the highest priority. The village atmosphere changes during harvest season. Conversations often revolve around weather conditions, crop yields, and predictions for winter. Farmers compare results and quietly calculate whether they have gathered enough to feed their families and earn a modest income. Anxiety and hope exist side by side. A successful harvest can provide security for months. A poor one may force difficult sacrifices. Once crops are collected, much of the work is only beginning. Grain must be stored carefully to prevent spoilage. Vegetables are preserved for winter use. Apples are gathered from orchards and stored in cool places. Families spend countless hours preparing food supplies that must last until spring. Every resource is valued. Waste is considered dangerous because replacement may not be possible. As evenings grow cooler, villagers begin noticing the first signs of seasonal change. Leaves turn shades of gold and red. Morning fog settles over fields. The days become shorter, reminding everyone that winter is approaching. Yet despite the exhausting labor, there is also a feeling of accomplishment. Families can see the results of months of effort standing in barns and storehouses. For a brief moment, they are able to appreciate what they have achieved together. The harvest represents more than food. It represents survival, resilience, and the reward for countless hours of labor. In the Victorian village, autumn is not simply another season. It is the final test of an entire year's work, and the future of every household depends upon its outcome. As the final harvest wagons roll into the village and the last bundles of grain are stored safely inside barns, a new season begins to reveal itself. The excitement and urgency of harvest gradually give way to preparation for the long winter ahead. Victorian villagers know that the colder months can be unforgiving, and much of their survival depends on decisions made during these crucial weeks of autumn. Every household becomes busy with the task of preserving food and securing supplies. Potatoes, carrots, turnips, and onions are carefully stored in cool cellars where they can last for months. Apples are packed away in wooden crates, while jams, pickles, and preserves fill shelves inside cottages. Families inspect their stores repeatedly, calculating whether they have enough provisions to sustain them until spring. For poorer households, these calculations can be a source of constant anxiety. A shortage of food may mean hunger before winter finally ends. Firewood becomes another essential concern. Men spend long hours chopping and stacking timber while children gather smaller branches from nearby woods and hedgerows. Coal, when affordable, is purchased and stored for the coldest months. Without sufficient fuel, even a modest winter can become dangerous. The thick stone walls of many cottages offer some protection against the cold, but they do little to prevent icy drafts from finding their way inside. Clothing must also be prepared. Women devote countless hours to repairing worn garments, sewing patches onto coats, and knitting scarves, gloves, and stockings. New clothing is rarely purchased unless absolutely necessary. Most families make do with what they already own, repairing items repeatedly until they can no longer be used. As daylight hours shorten, the rhythm of village life begins to change. Farmers spend less time in the fields and more time maintaining tools, repairing fences, and caring for livestock. The pace of outdoor labor slows, but work never truly stops. Every season brings different responsibilities, and winter preparation becomes just as important as planting and harvesting. The natural world provides constant reminders of what lies ahead. Leaves drift from trees and cover village lanes in shades of gold, orange, and brown. Morning frost begins appearing on rooftops and fields. Migrating birds disappear from the countryside, and cold winds arrive from distant regions. These familiar signs are observed carefully by villagers who have spent their lives living according to nature's calendar. Yet autumn is not viewed entirely with dread. There is also a sense of accomplishment. Families look upon full barns, stocked shelves, and neatly stacked firewood with quiet satisfaction. Months of hard work have produced tangible results. For a brief time, many experience a feeling of security. They know challenges remain ahead, but they also know they have done everything possible to prepare. As darkness arrives, earlier each evening and the air grows colder with every passing week, the village settles into a period of cautious optimism, waiting for winter to test whether its preparations will be enough. As winter finally arrives, the Victorian village enters its most challenging season. The colorful leaves of autumn disappear beneath frost and snow, and the countryside, that once buzzed with activity, becomes quieter and far more difficult to navigate. For the villagers, winter is not merely a change in weather. It is a test of preparation, endurance, and resilience. The days grow remarkably short. In some weeks, darkness seems to dominate life itself. Many villagers begin work before sunrise and return home after sunset, spending much of their day under gray skies. Without electric lighting, the limited daylight becomes a valuable resource that must be used wisely. Every task is planned around the few available hours of natural light. Cold winds sweep across open fields and through narrow village lanes. Frost forms on cottage windows. An icy rain often turns roads into slippery paths of mud and frozen earth. Travel becomes more difficult and sometimes dangerous. A journey that takes an hour during summer may require far longer during winter conditions. Families therefore remain closer to home, venturing out only when necessary. Inside the cottages, life centers around the fireplace. The hearth becomes the heart of the household, providing warmth, light, and a place for family members to gather. Fires are carefully maintained because fuel is precious. Every piece of firewood and every lump of coal must last as long as possible. Villagers constantly monitor their supplies, hoping they have enough to survive until spring. Food stores are equally important. The vegetables preserved during autumn, the grain harvested from the fields, and the jars of jam and pickled goods now prove their value. Meals remain simple but filling. Soups, stews, bread, and root vegetables appear regularly on family tables. Fresh food becomes scarce, making preserved supplies essential for survival. Winter also brings increased health risks. Cold temperatures weaken the elderly and the very young. Respiratory illnesses spread more easily as families spend longer periods indoors. A simple cough can cause serious concern, especially in households that have already experienced loss. Medical care remains limited, forcing families to rely upon home remedies and mutual support. Despite these hardships, winter is not entirely bleak. Long evenings around the fire create opportunities for storytelling, reading, sewing, and conversation. Families spend more time together than during the busy farming seasons. Old stories are shared, songs are sung, and traditions are passed from one generation to the next. In many ways, winter strengthens the bonds that hold the community together. Outside, snow may cover the fields and silence the countryside, but inside the cottages, life continues. The villagers wait patiently for the return of spring, trusting that the hardships of winter will eventually give way to warmer days. As winter settles deeply over the Victorian village, daily life shifts indoors and the community enters a quieter chapter of the year. The fields lie dormant beneath frost and snow, the harvest safely stored away, and much of the outdoor labor that defined previous seasons is temporarily suspended. Yet this does not mean life becomes easier. In many ways, winter presents its own unique demands, requiring patience, discipline, and constant effort to maintain the household. While farmers continue caring for livestock and repairing equipment, many families devote their attention to tasks that were postponed during the busy months of planting and harvest. Inside cottages, women spend long hours sewing, knitting, mending clothing, and repairing household items. Nothing is wasted if it can be reused. A worn coat may receive new patches, a damaged blanket may be carefully stitched back together, and old garments are often transformed into useful items for younger children. These skills are essential because purchasing replacements is expensive and often beyond the means of ordinary villagers. The long winter evenings create opportunities for activities that are difficult to enjoy during the more demanding seasons. Families gather around the fireplace after supper, sharing stories that have been passed down for generations. Some tales recount local legends and mysterious events, while others preserve family history. Grandparents become valuable storytellers, connecting younger generations to a past that exists largely through memory and tradition. Reading is another treasured activity for those fortunate enough to own books. Although books remain relatively expensive, literacy has become increasingly common throughout the Victorian era. Families may spend hours reading aloud by candlelight, transforming a single book into entertainment for an entire household. Newspapers occasionally reach even remote villages, bringing news of political events, technological inventions, and developments occurring far beyond the countryside. For many villagers, these stories offer a glimpse into a rapidly changing world. The Victorian age is a period of remarkable transformation. Railways expand across Britain, Factories grow in distant cities, and scientific discoveries capture public attention. Yet in the village, these changes often feel far away. Daily life remains closely tied to traditions that have existed for generations. Nevertheless, signs of progress slowly begin to appear. New ideas travel through newspapers, travelers, and conversations, gradually influencing even the most isolated communities. Winter also strengthens social connections within the village. Neighbors visit one another more frequently during the cold months, sharing food, conversation, and companionship. Acts of kindness become especially important when illness or hardship strikes. A family facing difficulties may receive assistance from those around them, reinforcing the sense of mutual dependence that defines village life. As snow continues to blanket the countryside and cold winds rattle cottage windows, the villagers endure another winter together. Though the season can be harsh, it also reminds them of the strength found in family, tradition, and community. In the quiet glow of the hearth, surrounded by familiar faces, they find comfort while waiting for the first signs of spring to return once again. As the winter months continue, one institution remains at the center of village life more than any other: the church. Rising above the cottages and fields, its tower serves as a familiar landmark visible from nearly every corner of the countryside. For Victorian villagers, the church is far more than a place of worship. It functions as the social, moral, and cultural heart of the community, influencing nearly every stage of life from birth to death. On Sunday mornings, families dress in their best clothing and make their way through village lanes toward the church. Attendance is considered both a religious duty and a social expectation. The congregation includes farmers, craftsmen, laborers, shopkeepers, and landowners, all gathered beneath the same roof. Although differences in wealth and status remain visible, church services create one of the few occasions when the entire community comes together in a shared experience. The ringing of church bells serves many purposes beyond calling people to worship. The bells announce weddings, funerals, holidays, and important community events. They mark the passage of time and often provide the first warning when emergencies occur. Their familiar sound becomes deeply woven into daily life, offering a sense of stability and continuity in a world filled with uncertainty. The village clergyman holds a position of considerable influence. In addition to conducting religious services, he often provides guidance, education, and assistance to families facing hardship. Many villagers seek his advice during difficult times. He visits the sick, comforts the grieving, and helps organize charitable efforts for those in need. In communities where professional services are limited, the local minister frequently serves as both spiritual leader and trusted counselor. The church also records many of life's most important moments. Baptisms welcome newborn children into the community. Marriages unite families and mark the beginning of new households. Funerals provide opportunities for collective mourning and remembrance. These ceremonies create a shared sense of identity, connecting villagers to one another across generations. During winter, when outdoor activities are restricted by weather, church gatherings become especially important. Seasonal celebrations bring warmth and companionship during the darkest weeks of the year. Christmas services fill the church with candlelight, music, and familiar traditions. Villagers sing hymns together, exchange greetings, and enjoy a rare sense of festivity. For many families, these moments provide comfort and hope during an otherwise difficult season. Yet the church is not merely a place for celebration. It also reinforces the values that shape Victorian society. Hard work, personal responsibility, charity, and moral conduct are emphasized regularly. These principles help maintain order within the community and provide a framework through which people understand both success and hardship. As snow continues to cover the village and winter slowly advances, the church remains a constant presence. Its bells continue to ring across the countryside, reminding villagers that they are part of something larger than themselves. In a world where life can often be unpredictable, the church offers familiarity, belonging, and a sense of purpose that endures through every season of the year. As winter slowly begins to loosen its grip on the countryside, the Victorian village enters a season of anticipation. The cold remains, snow still lingers in shaded corners, and icy winds occasionally sweep across the fields. But subtle signs of change are becoming impossible to ignore. For villagers who have endured months of darkness, cold, and confinement, these early hints of spring bring renewed energy and hope. The lengthening days are among the first changes people notice. Each evening, the sun remains visible a little longer, allowing more time for outdoor work and daily activities. After spending much of winter gathered around fireplaces, villagers eagerly welcome the return of natural light. The countryside itself begins to awaken. Bare branches show the first tiny buds of new growth. Birds return to hedgerows and woodlands, and patches of green emerge across fields that have appeared lifeless for months. Farmers watch these developments carefully because spring signals the beginning of another agricultural cycle. The success of the coming year depends upon decisions made during these critical weeks. Fields must be inspected, tools repaired, and livestock prepared for the demanding months ahead. Horses that spent much of winter sheltered in stables are gradually returned to work. Seeds saved from previous harvests are examined and sorted. Every task is performed with careful attention because mistakes can have consequences lasting the entire year. The village becomes noticeably busier as outdoor activity increases. Roads that were quiet during winter once again fill with movement. Carts travel between farms and neighboring communities. Tradesmen resume projects delayed by poor weather. Children spend more time outdoors, exploring fields and lanes that were previously buried beneath snow and mud. Their laughter returns to the village, bringing life back to spaces that felt silent during the coldest months. Spring cleaning also becomes an important tradition within many households. Homes are thoroughly cleaned after months of winter living. Bedding is aired out, floors are scrubbed, and belongings are organized. This process is practical, but it also carries symbolic meaning. It represents a fresh start after the hardships of winter and prepares families for the busy season ahead. Despite the optimism that spring inspires, uncertainty remains. Farmers understand that nature can still be unpredictable. A late frost may damage young crops, excessive rain can delay planting, and poor weather can quickly erase hopes for a productive year. Experience has taught villagers to balance optimism with caution. They celebrate signs of renewal while remaining aware that success is never guaranteed. Yet throughout the community there is a growing sense of possibility. The hardships of winter are fading into memory. New opportunities lie ahead as church bells ring across the countryside and sunlight spreads over green fields once more. The village prepares to begin another chapter in its endless cycle of work, survival and renewal. For the people of Victorian England, spring is more than a season. It is proof that even after the longest and darkest winter, life always finds a way to return. With spring now fully established, the Victorian village returns to its busiest and most hopeful season. The hardships of winter have passed, and the countryside is transformed by growth and activity. Fields that lay silent only months before are once again filled with workers preparing the land for another year of cultivation. Everywhere there is movement. Horses pull plows through freshly turned soil. Farmers inspect their fields with careful attention, and families devote long hours to planting the crops that will determine their future. For the villagers, spring is not simply a beautiful season. It is a period of opportunity and responsibility. The success of the coming harvest begins with the work performed now. Every seed planted represents both risk and hope. A productive year can bring stability and comfort, while poor results may create difficulties lasting far beyond a single season. Because so much depends upon agriculture, the entire community becomes focused on the tasks ahead. Children who spent much of winter indoors eagerly return to the outdoors. Village lanes are once again filled with laughter and activity. Young boys help guide livestock, carry supplies, and assist with simple farm work, while girls often help in gardens, care for younger siblings, and contribute to household duties. Although childhood in Victorian England includes moments of play, responsibility arrives early, and nearly every child contributes to family life in meaningful ways. The village marketplace also becomes increasingly active during spring. Farmers, craftsmen, and merchants gather to exchange goods and conduct business. Fresh produce begins appearing after months of reliance on stored food. Eggs, dairy products, and seasonal vegetables become more plentiful. These small improvements in daily life are deeply appreciated after the limitations of winter. Travel between neighboring communities becomes easier as roads dry and weather conditions improve. Visitors arrive from nearby villages, bringing news, stories, and information about events occurring beyond the local area. In a time before instant communication, such encounters remain an important source of knowledge and connection. The church continues to play a central role throughout the season. Special services celebrate renewal and gratitude. reflecting the close relationship between faith and the agricultural calendar. Villagers often view the arrival of spring as both a natural and spiritual blessing. The rebirth visible throughout the countryside reinforces a sense of optimism that has endured for generations. Yet despite the beauty of the season, life remains demanding. Long hours of labor are required to prepare fields, maintain property, and care for animals. The pace of work increases with each passing week. Villagers understand that spring offers only a limited window of opportunity. Every day matters, and delays can have serious consequences later in the year. As sunlight stretches further into the evening and the countryside bursts with color, the village once again embraces its familiar rhythm. The cycle that has guided generations continues uninterrupted. Work, family, faith, and community remain closely intertwined. For the people of the Victorian village, spring is a season of renewal, but it is also a reminder that life moves forward through effort, perseverance, and the enduring hope that this year may be better than the last. As another year unfolds in the Victorian village, it becomes clear that life here is shaped not by grand historical events, but by ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. Through every season, from the frozen depths of winter to the warmth of summer and the uncertainty of harvest time, the villagers have followed a rhythm that has remained largely unchanged for generations. Their days begin before sunrise and often end long after darkness falls. They work the land, care for their families, support their neighbors, and place their hopes in forces that are often beyond their control. Unlike the wealthy industrialists and famous figures who dominate history books, these villagers leave behind few written records, yet they represent the vast majority of people who lived during Queen Victoria's reign. Their stories are rarely told, but they reveal the reality of everyday life in 19th century Britain more clearly than any palace or parliament ever could. Within these cottages, children are born, families grow, and generations pass their knowledge from parent to child. Every skill matters. The ability to grow food, mend clothing, care for animals, and endure hardship is essential to survival. Life is often difficult, but it is also filled with moments of joy. Weddings bring celebration. Harvests bring relief. Community gatherings create lasting memories. Even simple evenings spent around a glowing fireplace become treasured moments in a world where comfort is never guaranteed. Throughout the year, the village remains deeply connected to nature. The changing seasons determine the pace of work and shape every aspect of daily existence. Success depends upon preparation, cooperation, and perseverance. When challenges arise, neighbors support one another because they understand that survival is rarely an individual achievement. It is a shared effort that binds the entire community together. As the Victorian era continues and the modern world slowly approaches, railways expand, factories grow, and cities become larger than ever before. Yet many villages remain remarkably unchanged. Their traditions, values, and way of life continue to endure, preserving a world that had existed for centuries. Looking back today, it is easy to romanticize these villages as peaceful places untouched by time. But the reality was far more complex. Life demanded strength, sacrifice, and resilience. Behind every stone cottage and every country lane were people working tirelessly to build a future for themselves and their families. Their struggles, hopes, and achievements deserve to be remembered. And so as the sun sets once more over the village and smoke rises gently from cottage chimneys, we leave this remarkable world behind. Thank you for joining us beside the fireplace as we explored the untold daily life of a Victorian village. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, be sure to subscribe for more relaxing Victorian-era stories, historical evenings by the fire, and forgotten tales from a world long gone. Until next time, settle into your favorite chair, let the fire crackle softly, and travel with us once again into history. If you enjoy Victorian-era stories, forgotten history, and relaxing bedtime documentaries, please like, subscribe, and join us for more historical journeys.